What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm back here at Timms Harley Davidson in Anderson, South Carolina to show you this 2021 Sport Glide that literally just came off the lift. It's not completely done. There's a few little odds and ends, but the way things go around here, these things tend to sell before I can get my hands on them. So we're gonna go over this bike before they have a chance to do that. And I'll explain a little bit more about what I think they plan to do to it. But we're gonna go over what's been done so far. Now, this is the Sport Glide that I used to do my original review of the Harley Davidson Sport Glide when it was in its original form factor stock from Harley Davidson. And I was a pretty hard critic on the Sport Glide. I think it had a lot of potential, but I don't love the way the Sport Glide comes from Harley Davidson. And people noticed that so much so that I literally read a comment this morning when I was having my coffee, and someone said, hey, how about next time use someone that doesn't hate the Sport Glide to do a review on it, which was fair. Like I said, I was harsh on this thing. But after you kind of see what we've done to this bike, I think you'll understand why. Now, one thing I did hope to do was do a build type video for you guys. Not so much a how-to, because that's very specific and it makes for a really long video for those that don't care to learn how to do this themselves. I just got off the phone with a tech that did all the work. And altogether, he's got about 20 hours in this build. So there's no way we could document it with my schedule, his schedule, waiting on parts to come in and stuff. So I'll show you guys the footage that I did get during the process. I'll go ahead and show you that now, and then we'll talk about the bike as it sits in its current form. All right, so to get this fairing off, you need a lot of specialty tools. Bill, you want to show them that real quick? So that's all there is to that. Easy enough. All right, so I thought I would give you guys a quick update. I'm back up here at Timms, and this is where we're at on the Sport Glide. So we've got a rough mock-up of this fairing going on, just kind of let you guys see how this mounts on. As I think I pointed out in the beginning, but if not, this is definitely not me doing the work. My buddy Bill is doing this build. So we've got that mocked up. Here, this is the maker of that fairing for anyone that's curious. So we've ordered some bars. I'll wait and we'll do that in the next part of the video to show you guys what kind of bars we're gonna do. That's when the windshield will go on and like a real mock-up will start. We're still kind of waiting on parts, but I promised you guys a build video. And again, it's not a how-to. This is just more of a, this is the process of the build. So I thought I'd let you guys see that, and I'll update you again once we make some more changes. All right, guys, apologies for the poor audio. I don't have my microphone hooked up to the camera right now, but I popped into Timms to do some work really quickly and came back here to look at the Sport Glide and see what was done. So I think Bill's got the mock-up of the fairing pretty much done. So he's gone ahead and pulled that off, and I thought this would be a good chance to show you guys the bracket that holds it on. In case you were wondering, this is how it mounts, and that's what the bracket looks like mounted on there. So no other progress yet. Obviously, I'll update you guys. Give you guys a quick walk around. I tried to get some good B-roll of this bike just to kind of do it justice. So I use my big camera, I use my cell phone for these walk arounds. I'll show you this thing. And one thing I know, I will get a lot of comments asking different questions about different pricing. So I don't have that info yet. I'll put it in the video description, but it's probably going to be a little bit later. Like I said in the beginning of this video, this bike is not completely done. So the way things work at a Harley dealership is parts has to submit their stuff, service has to submit their stuff, They get it to sales, that attach it to the bike. We get a final build sheet. We get a final tally of what everything cost when it's all said and done. So unfortunately, I don't have a total price for this bike, and I can't give you pricing for, say, like the bars and risers, stuff like that. I am going to tell you which companies all of these things came from. And then I know in like the Street Bob build that I did, we use these same risers, same bars. So I would imagine right there at the same price. I can't remember off the top of my head. Also, that would be a good reason for you to check that video out if you haven't already. Also, while we're on that topic, go ahead and subscribe. I know a lot of you guys continuously watch my videos. I'm guilty of that as well without being subscribed. Just go ahead and click subscribe if you would. Give this video a thumbs up if you're into all the normal YouTube stuff. I hate asking, but I have noticed that when I ask, I notice a significant bump in subscribers, likes, all that stuff. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know we always start with the tank. I don't know how that became a thing, but it is a thing. And you'll notice that this tank is naked compared to how it came. I'll throw in a clip right now of the original review so you can see the tank really cool. Starting with the tank and the graphic. So I am a big fan of this font. I love this little splash of orange, the Harley orange there. I don't hate the rest of this graphic, you know, above and below, but I also think it might have looked pretty sick without it. You may have had to spread the Harley out a little more. So as you see, that's how it came originally. Now we have stripped this thing clean. It's just painted normal Harley Davidson black. We are going to put badges on there. However, from what I understand, they're going to look something like that. They'll be painted orange to match, so they'll look just like the ones on the saddlebags, and it will be on there. I think those are sent out to paint, so we don't have those yet. But honestly, man, like, it's hard to beat that clean black look. Like the lines on this bike, just the overall, man, like I am feeling this bike. This bike is amazing. Now there are a few things I would like to do to it. I'll go over that in just a second. However, this is a floor bike. So once you start getting so specific with things that you've done, it gets harder and harder to find that person that it fits, you know, and it also drives the price up significantly. So the idea being you leave a little bit for the customer to do, especially things that are going to be so specific like wheels, seats, things like that. Okay, so we'll jump into the whole reason you guys probably clicked on this video, starting with the risers. Obviously Kraus Moto risers, that's what Timms pretty much runs on all their stuff, and that's because what all the guys that work here run on their personal bikes. We feel it's some of the best stuff out there. We don't have any kind of deals or connections to them, but like I said, that's what everyone here runs, so that's what we put on our floor bikes. These are 12-inch risers, and then we use the Fly Racing handlebars on here. So when you count the bend, you know, you're looking at roughly 2 inches on that. Puts you at about a 14-inch bar. Now, I'll sit on this bike in a second so you can see. I'm 5'11", 6 foot with my boots on, so I'll sit on the bike, let you see what that looks like. Okay, so this is how it looks at 6 feet. With this seat, with this riser, with this bar, the whole thing, like this is exactly where I like to be. I like my arms to be straight across, personal preference. I just don't like them over my head. I like that look. I think that looks cool, but for me personally, handling is terrible. I also hate them down here in my lap, like the factory Sport Glide comes with, like Street Glides come with. I just don't feel like I have any real control over the bike. I have a motocross background, so to me, this feels good with my arms straight. This width is pretty good. On maybe the Street Bob build, I think I mentioned how it felt just a little wide. Honestly, I think this is about perfect for me, but that's a very subjective thing. But this kind of gives you an idea where you would be based on your height. Okay, moving on to this fairing. This is from a company called RWD. As you saw in the build part of the video, if you did watch that, it comes just primered, raw fiberglass. I'm not a painter, but from what I understand was fairly rough. I mean, not obviously unmanageable because they've got this one looking really, really good, but it is a good bit of work. I know there's a little bit of tweaking to get it to fit right. After speaking with the tech, I think he said he's done two from this company now and said that tends to be a thing, but I think that's probably going to be the case with pretty much any fairing, aftermarket fairing that you're buying to fit. And I don't know if any of you guys watch Crucy Originals. I watch a lot of his content, and he's always modifying stock Harley parts and showing, you know, some inconsistencies there. So no two parts being alike makes mounting an aftermarket part to that bike even more complicated, which got complicated for me to say, as you could tell. But there's kind of a look at the inside of things once it's all said and done. You know, it's kind of a blank canvas in there. I'm sure if you wanted to go crazy, you could mount a head unit in there, put some speakers in there, because I mean, this is just a hollow fairing at the end of the day. But honestly, I think this looks really, really good. There was some debate on which fairing to use, which windshield to use, and whoever made the final decision really nailed it, because honestly, I've seen a lot and I haven't seen any that I liked more than this. I did want to point out these tolerances though. Look at that. Like, look how close we are to not clearing. Now that's with the bar cranked. Like, I literally cannot turn the bar anymore. So it's not going to hit, but boy, it got close. So the engine build on this bike is just a stage 1. So that's a high flow air cleaner, 2-into-1 exhaust, and a tuner. So we've gone Screaming Eagle air cleaner on this. I think that's a good clean look. I like that red tint that the air cleaner has to it. Harley tuner, of course, and Bassani exhaust. This is typically what all the build bikes get, at least all the Softail builds get here at Timms. Again, that's just because we feel like it performs well. It looks really clean. It kind of goes with every bike. It's short, but it does run out just a little bit so that the sound didn't, you know, blasting in your ears while you're ripping down the highway. Overall, just a really good pipe all the way around. Now, as far as personal changes for me, I was pretty hard on these wheels, and I'm gonna keep that stance. I don't love these Mantis wheels, but I don't like directional wheels, period, on whether it be on an automobile or a motorcycle. So I get that not everyone agrees. I've gotten a few comments on my original review of the Sport Glide. People say they love them, and hey, I get it. You know, that's the beauty of motorcycles. They're super subjective. Do it all your own style, your own taste. I would do different wheels on this if it were my bike. I would also do a nice seat, most likely Saddleman. Super popular seat for good reason. Looks good, functions good, feels good. Not the cheapest seat in the world, but hey, when you're talking seats, you're gonna get what you pay for. So honestly, those are about the only two things I would change. Now, obviously, if money is no object, then yeah, we can go into the motor and go up to a stage 3 or something. We could do some Öhlins suspension. You could go crazy, but I'm talking out of a realistic budget. The bike as is fine to me. But if I had the cash, I would do the wheels and do the seat. But you guys can let me know in the comments what you would do to this bike. So I am 100% going to get this thing out and do a test ride in just a second. I thought I would do one final walk around for you. And for those that are curious, I will put the link for the original review of the Sport Glide in the description of this video so you can check it out. Like I said, I was pretty hard on it because although this bike had a ton of potential, I didn't love what Harley did with it. But when I walked into the dealership to make this video and saw this thing sitting here, I just rode it kind of around a little circle to put it in the little spot where we do all the reviews. I was like, oh, now I'm sold. Now the Sport Glide makes sense. This to me is what Harley should have done. Now I want to give props to Laidlaw Harley Davidson. They built a full-on, like, if budget was no object type Sport Glide. I forget what they call it, but I'm sure if you just type in Laidlaw Harley Davidson Sport Glide, it will come up. It was nasty. So shout out and props to them for theirs. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this one out now, and we'll do a test ride on it and see how it feels. All right, let's get this test ride started. So I've got one GoPro mounted inside the fairing, and during the ride it kind of went sideways because I'm using a cheap suction mount, which doesn't screw in well. And then obviously, as you can see right now, the GoPro on the helmet, which is much requested. Also, for what it's worth, this is the Simpson M30. I'm going to be switching helmets soon. Unfortunately, no helmet company wanted to do anything, or they at least didn't respond, or never actually read the message. I just sent it through Instagram. But nonetheless, very excited to ride this bike. Also, I know I was super hard on it, so check out over my shoulder right there, rolling up. So real quick, not to detour this talking about the bike, but that lane it runs out. So basically, you only, if you're familiar with the area, obviously he is since he works here, you only get in that lane if you're going to try to haul ass and pass whoever's in the left lane. So we're going to let him go for obvious reasons, but it would be funny if I didn't let him over. Okay, so anyway, let's get into this review. Typically, the T-bar setup that we've run on Softail / Dyna models in the past has usually ended up being 12-inch, like I said in the review. This one, overall height ends up being about 14, and based on the geometry of the Sport Glide, I think that's absolutely perfect for me. I love the look, I love the feel. I think this is a great setup. And then also, like I said, I think the bars, for some reason, these are the same bars, but for some reason on the Street Bob, I felt like they felt a little wide. So I don't know if it's the fairing, like visually changing things, or if they cut a little bit off of these bars. I need to ask about that and see. So as far as the fairing goes, I think it looks absolutely killer. Based on the money that you spend, like, you got to really be committed to that look though. It does help a lot with the wind. It's a significant improvement over that stock one. That stock one did absolutely positively nothing, and that's one of the reasons I was hard on that bike, is I feel like Harley kind of dropped the ball with what that fairing could have been. Now, I don't want like a cheap version of the Batwing fairing, you know, that's not what I want, but I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen this, or like the little fairings and taller like Memphis shade windshields that I see people do on the Lowrider S. That would have been an awesome option from Harley directly. One thing I forgot to mention in the review that we have changed on this bike that I think really does a lot for the way that it feels when you're riding is we put floorboards. So these floorboards are off of a Softail Slim, I believe. The Sport Glide comes with forward controls, but they are pegs. Switching them to floorboards makes a world of difference. This is an absolutely super comfortable bike. Like, I might even step out and say this has been my favorite build that we've done. Now, way back at the beginning of the channel, I reviewed a 2020 Road King that the owner of the dealership built to go do a ride, and then he ended up selling it. And it was definitely my favorite, but I mean, it kind of got up there in the money just because he started putting carbon fiber parts on and whatnot. So anyway, we're going to keep this one real short and simple. That's my thoughts on this bike. As the setup is, I absolutely love it. It rides amazing. I rode this thing as much as I thought I could without racking up too many miles on it. So I'm a fan of the Sport Glide in this configuration. Hopefully that makes some of you Sport Glide owners a little happier. Just as a reminder, subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching the video.